You know when someone says something absurd, and instead of laughing, people applaud? Like, you're left kind of speechless. Look around. Dude, is this for real? But it is, and the more exaggerated it gets, the more people defend it. Not because it makes sense, but because it feels good to hear. Now think about this on a massive scale. Millions of people, cameras rolling, everyone commenting, fighting, sharing. The thing is, this didn't start as politics. It started as a show. And here's the problem. When it becomes a show, it doesn't matter if it's true. It matters if it holds attention. Remember that. Soon everything will click into place, because maybe the scariest part isn't who's on stage, but the audience. And that leaves the question nobody likes to answer. Did we really want something better? Or just someone who would yell what we already wanted to hear? Donald Trump, businessman, TV host, celebrity, and President of the United States from 2017 to 2021. Now, in 2025, President-elect again. This isn't going to be a biography, not a defense, not an attack. This is about understanding how a guy everyone thought was a joke became the most powerful person on the planet. Twice. And in the end, you'll realize this didn't stay in the past. Actually, this is just beginning. So, quick context. Trump didn't appear out of nowhere in 2016. The guy had been famous for decades, inherited a fortune from his dad, built buildings in New York, put his name on everything. Hotels, casinos, golf courses. The guy's ego was so big that he literally wrote his name in huge letters on every building he touched. And then came TV. The Apprentice. A show where he fired people live and said, "You're fired," with that serious face. People loved it. Millions watching. He became synonymous with success, with someone who says what they think with a tough boss. But that was TV, man. It was scripted. It was entertainment. But people didn't separate that. They saw the character and thought that was the real guy. Then in 2015, he comes down that golden escalator at Trump Tower and announces he's running for president. Everyone laughed. Politicians laughed. Journalists laughed. The entire internet laughed. And he won. But wait, it gets worse. Trump didn't win because he had the best ideas, not because he was the most prepared. He won because he understood something traditional politicians didn't get. People don't want politics. They want a show. Look at how he did it. First, he broke all the rules of how a politician should behave, cursed at opponents, gave everyone nicknames. Crooked Hillary, Lying Ted, Sleepy Joe. Seemed like a school kid making fun of others during recess. But it worked. People shared it, laughed, got outraged. Whatever. The important thing is they talked about him. Second, he simplified everything. Politics is complicated, right? Economy, international relations, public health. It's too much information. It's exhausting. Trump took all that and turned it into 3-word slogans. Make America great again. Build the wall. Lock her up. Easy to remember. Easy to shout at a rally. Easy to put on a hat. And third, and this is the most important, he said what people were thinking, but were afraid to say out loud. You know that anger people felt toward politicians, thinking everything's rigged, feeling like nobody cares about them? Trump took all that and shouted it really loud, not with elegance, not with diplomacy, but with pure rage. And half the country heard that and thought, finally someone who tells it like it is. The other half heard it and thought, this guy is dangerous. But both sides did the same thing. Couldn't stop talking about him. Hold on, soon you'll see where this is going. Now comes the contradiction. The guy promised to drain the swamp of Washington, remove corrupt politicians, end the system, be the voice of the forgotten people. But then what? He put billionaires in government, his own family members in important positions, did business while being president, spent weekends at his own resorts, like the government paying for him to stay at his own hotels. The man of the people lived in a golden tower with his own name on it. But check this out. That didn't matter to his voters. Why? Because he had created something stronger than facts. He had created a narrative, a story where he was the hero fighting against them, the media, politicians, the elite. And every time someone criticized him, every time a scandal appeared, he did the same thing, said it was a lie, fake news, persecution, and it worked. Because people didn't trust anything anymore anyway, already thought everything was a lie. So when he said, "Don't believe them, believe me," many people believed. Like this. The guy turned his own shamelessness into authenticity. Think about that. He didn't apologize. Ever. Didn't matter what he did. And people saw that as strength, as courage, as someone who doesn't bow to anyone. While other politicians were explaining themselves, apologizing, trying to please everyone, Trump just doubled down, said something even more absurd, and moved on. And you know what's craziest? It worked. But here's where things get really ugly. Trump didn't invent polarization. He didn't create political hatred out of nowhere. He just threw gasoline on the fire. Think about recent years. Internet fights, families who stopped talking because of politics, both sides that can't even have conversations anymore. Like before people disagreed, now they hate each other. And Trump realized that got votes, that keeping people angry, afraid, always on maximum alert, kept them engaged, kept them voting. He didn't try to unite anyone, he divided, on purpose. Because a divided country is easier to control. When people are fighting each other, they don't pay attention to what you're really doing. And look, it still works today. Then comes 2020, pandemic, economy crashing, people dying. And what happens? Trump loses the election. Joe Biden wins, but Trump says it was fraud. No evidence, just says it, and millions of people believe it. In January 2021, a crowd invades the Capitol, the heart of American democracy. People die, things get really serious. For the first time in modern US history, the peaceful transfer of power almost doesn't happen. But Trump, he never admitted defeat, to this day. And his base, still solid, maybe even stronger, because at the end of the day, they weren't voting for public policies. They were voting for a feeling, an identity, a team. And when you turn politics into soccer, the team is never wrong. If you like using history to understand the present, subscribe. Here we don't idolize anyone, we question ideas. Now let's go to the parallel with today's world. Because look, Trump might be the most famous example, but he's not the only one. Around the world, you see the same thing happening. Leaders who speak simply, who blame the others, who treat politics as culture war. Bolsonaro in Brazil, Orbán in Hungary, Duterte in the Philippines, all took from the same playbook. And it's not just in politics. It's on social media. It's on YouTube. It's on TikTok. What engages the most? Anger, outrage, scandal. Post a nice video explaining something complex, 10,000 views. Post someone yelling, cursing, fighting, 10 million. We created a system where attention is worth more than truth, where noise is worth more than reason. And Trump understood this before everyone else. He turned the presidency into a Twitter feed. Every day a new scandal, every day a new controversy. Impossible to stop paying attention. And while we were outraged, sharing, commenting, he stayed in power. We were the audience, and he was the host. The problem is this wasn't a TV show. It was real. And then comes 2024. Trump runs again, even after everything, the trials, the accusations, the chaos, and he wins. Again. Because things haven't changed, the system hasn't changed, people haven't changed. We still want the show, still want the fight, still want someone who says what they think, even when what the person thinks makes no sense at all. And look, you can understand it. People are tired of politicians talking pretty and doing nothing. Tired of empty promises, tired of feeling like nobody cares about them. So when someone different appears, someone who breaks the pattern, they grab on, even if that different is just a new kind of the lie. You know what's the scariest part of all this? It's not Trump. It's the fact that he showed it works. He proved you don't need experience, don't need truth, don't need decency. You just need to know how to tell a story people want to hear. And now everyone knows that. Politicians learned, influencers learned, companies learned. Truth doesn't matter as much anymore as the narrative. And us, we let this happen. Because every time we click on a sensationalist headline, every time we share something we didn't even read properly, every time we choose content that confirms what we already think instead of what challenges us, we're feeding the system. So what's the price of all this? Trust. Trust in institutions, in media, in science, in neighbours, in shared reality itself. When nothing is true, everything can be true. And then you have everyone living in their own bubble, in their own universe of alternative facts. And how do you govern a country like that? How do you solve problems when you can't even agree on what the problems are? Trump didn't cause all this alone, obviously. But he took a crack that already existed and turned it into an abyss. And now he's back. President again. With more anger, with more certainty, with fewer limits. Because he learned one thing. You can do whatever you want if you have enough people believing in you. Doesn't matter if it's true, doesn't matter if it's right. It matters if you can tell the story better than the other side. So here's the reflection. Is Trump a problem? Yes. But is he the problem? Or is he the symptom? Are we angry at him? Or angry at the mirror he holds up to us? Because at the end of the day, he wouldn't have gotten where he got if we hadn't put him there. Twice. And if it happened with him, it'll happen with others. It's already happening. Because the lesson that stuck isn't, don't be like Trump. The lesson that stuck is, be like Trump because it works. History doesn't punish those who lie. It punishes those who believe the lies and then pretend they never had anything to do with it. And us? We're still deciding which side we're on.